The brutal truth about why you love her and why it breaks you. Every time you think about her at night, not because she was perfect, not because the memories are sharp, but because when she was near, you felt something you haven't felt in a long time. Something that scared you as much as it comforted you, more alive, more hopeful, more seen. She didn't save you, but she made you feel like maybe, just maybe, you didn't need to be saved anymore. That maybe you were finally enough. But here's the truth. That feeling, it wasn't love. It was recognition of a part of yourself you thought was gone, a version of you buried under years of silence, rejection, pretending, and for a moment, in her gaze, he came back. Not fully, not forever, but enough to make you ache. Because when she left, you didn't just lose her. You lost that version of you, the one who smiled more, stood taller, believed in things again, and that's why it hurt so much. Not because she broke you, but because she reminded you of the man you forgot how to be. Tonight, we're going to dig into that pain, not to reopen the wound, but to understand what's really bleeding. Because this isn't just heartbreak. It's the collapse of a story. And until you understand why you love her, why you keep losing yourself in women who were never meant to hold you, you'll stay trapped, longing, guessing, falling. This isn't a story about her. It's a reckoning with you. Let's begin. You meet her. You lock eyes. And in an instant, the air changes. The weight you've been carrying, the dull ache of moving through a world that never really noticed you. Suddenly, it's lighter. You feel warm. You feel wanted. You feel chosen. She doesn't save you, but you feel saved. She listens like your voice matters. She laughs at your jokes, even the ones you don't finish. She touches your arm like it belongs to someone she trusts. And you mistake attention for affection. But attention is not love. It is not devotion. It is not intimacy. It's the echo chamber of a starving ego. Because somewhere deep inside you, you've been waiting, aching, for someone to finally see you, to validate your worth by reflecting it back to you. And she does. Not because she knows your soul, but because, for a brief moment, your needs align with her presence. And that's all it takes. You attach. You project. You hand over the script and ask her to play a role she never auditioned for. She drifts. You panic. She changes. You plead. She pulls away. You collapse. Why? Because it was never really about her. It was about how she made you feel about yourself. You thought it was love, but it was recognition. She reminded you of the version of you you've been chasing your whole life, the version who's lovable, confident, worthy, full. When she smiled, you saw him. When she pulled away, he vanished. That's why you spiraled. Because it wasn't just her that left, it was you, or at least the you that only existed in the mirror of her attention. And that's the lie. That what you felt was love, that what you lost was a relationship. But what you actually lost was your illusion, your reflection, your placeholder for self-worth. This is why so many men feel hollow after the breakup, not just because they miss her, but because they had made her the guardian of a self they didn't know how to access on their own. And when that's gone, what's left? Silence, shame, a desperate need to get back what was never really yours. But here's the truth most won't say. Until you learn to be whole without her gaze, every love you chase will feel like rescue and end like ruin. Because love is not meant to fix what you refuse to face. It's meant to meet you, once you found your way back to yourself. Plato once wrote that love is the pursuit of wholeness, that in the beginning humans were complete, androgynous, both male and female in one body. But the gods, threatened by our power, split us in half, and since then we've wandered the earth desperately searching for the other part we lost. It's a beautiful story, romantic, hopeful, but also dangerous, because it plants a seed that says you are not enough on your own, that without your other half you are unfinished, flawed, waiting to be completed. And so you search, you long, you ache, you look into every pair of eyes and silently ask, are you the one? Will you fix the part of me I never learned how to hold? And when someone shows you kindness, when someone makes you feel seen, you don't just appreciate it. You cling to it. You build temples around glances. You turn silence into promises. You name your loneliness fate and call your fear of abandonment romance. But what if the truth is harder to swallow? What if you're not chasing love at all? What if you're running, not toward someone, but away from yourself? You fear being alone. But it's not the solitude that terrifies you. It's the echo, the one that whispers, you're not worthy. The one that reminds you that without someone watching you, you disappear. So you fall, not in love, but in need, in hope, in fantasy. And when she leaves, when her attention fades, it's not just rejection you feel, it's collapse, because she wasn't just a partner. She was your proof, your evidence that you mattered, that you were lovable, real. And when that disappears, so does your sense of self. But here's the real tragedy. She didn't just break your heart, she broke the dam holding back your loneliness, the illusion you used to keep it quiet, and now it floods in. The silence, the ache, the terrifying sense that maybe you've never truly been okay, not because of her, but because of the belief you've carried your whole life, that love would save you. But love isn't salvation. It's not meant to complete you. It's meant to meet you where you already stand, whole, until you face that emptiness head on, until you stop treating connection as anesthesia. You will keep calling need love and heartbreak destiny. You were never incomplete, but as long as you believe you are, you will keep looking for someone to fill a void only you were born to heal. Hoy ChatGPT, Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But not all transformations are equal. Some leave you grounded. Others leave you shattered. Because when a woman sees you, truly sees you, it's not just connection you feel, it's release. It's like someone finally found the switch you didn't know existed, the part of you that had been quietly waiting, buried under years of pretending, performing, surviving. She touches it, and for a moment, the burden of being alone inside your own head disappears. You feel light, alive, almost divine, not because she saved you, but because, for the first time in a long time, you felt like you were real, and in that reflection, you built an entire world. But here's what you missed. She is not your therapist. She is not your mother. And she is not your savior. She is a mirror. And if the only time you love yourself is when you're being reflected in her gaze, you're not in love with a person. You're in love with an image. Your image, curated by your longing, projected onto her presence. And here's the painful truth. Mirrors crack. Maybe she stops looking at you the same way. Maybe life shifts. Maybe she simply changes. But the image you depended on, the you she reflected, starts to fade, and with it, your sense of worth. You don't spiral because she left. You spiral because you depended on her eyes to see yourself clearly, because without her, you feel like you disappear. But here's the twist. She never really saw you either. She saw a man who made her feel something, and when you stopped being the mirror she needed, she walked away. Not because she hated you, but because the illusion broke for both of you. And that's the trap no one warns you about. When we use people as mirrors, we forget they are also doing the same. She may have loved the version of herself she saw reflected in your admiration. She may have felt beautiful, wise, important. But when your fear surfaced, when your need distorted the reflection, what she once saw vanished, and she followed it. This isn't cruelty. It's nature. It's the ego protecting itself. It's identity fleeing from discomfort. So here you are, not abandoned by a woman, but abandoned by a mirror you thought was a person. The pain isn't just heartbreak. It's identity loss. And that's what you have to face now. Not how to get her back, but how to find a reflection that doesn't vanish when no one else is watching. Let's get brutally honest. You didn't fall in love with her. You fell in love with a story. Maybe she was your redemption, the one who would finally make it all make sense. Maybe she was your escape from the dullness, the routine, the ache of being unseen. Maybe she reminded you of the affection your father never gave, or the warmth your mother only gave conditionally. But whoever she was, she quickly became something else in your mind. Not just a person, but a canvas. And you brought the brush. You painted her in the shape of your wound, the Madonna, the seductress, the healer, the betrayer. You turned her into an archetype, not a human. Carl Jung believed that our psyche is populated with archetypes, primordial images etched into our collective unconscious. They aren't just symbols. They're roles we assign to others, especially those we love. And in love, we don't just connect, we project. You didn't just see her. You saw your hunger wearing her face. You saw safety in her softness, adventure in her laughter, validation in her attention. And that's the part you never questioned. Was it her, or was it the version of you that you became when she looked at you that way? Because you weren't really loving her. You were worshiping your own wound, draped in her form. And she might have sensed that. She might have played along, intoxicated by the idea of being someone's reason, someone's salvation. But no one can live as someone else's symbol forever. Eventually, the weight of it cracks the illusion. Reality leaks in, and when it does, things shift. She starts to feel like she's suffocating. You start to feel like she's slipping, and both of you suffer. Because the fantasy doesn't just fade, it fractures. It collapses under the pressure of trying to carry two people's broken pieces. You don't mourn the relationship. You mourn the myth, the promise of healing, the false future you imagined. But that myth was never her responsibility. It was yours. You built it, you fed it, and now you have to bury it. Because as long as you keep projecting your unresolved stories onto every woman who makes you feel something, you will keep confusing love with rescue, intensity with truth, longing with fate. She wasn't the one. She was the mirror that showed you how badly you needed to feel like someone was. And that realization, it's not your ending, it's your beginning. The moment you stop expecting a woman to carry your past, you make space to finally meet someone, not as a savior, but as a partner. But only if you stop casting her in a role you were meant to outgrow. Nietzsche warned us, When you look long into the abyss also looks into you. Now reverse that. When you stare too long into her, you lose sight of yourself. At first it feels harmless. You just want her attention, her laughter, her approval, but slowly, almost invisibly, your world begins to revolve around her. Her moods determine your mood. Her silence becomes your anxiety. Her validation becomes your oxygen. You start rearranging who you are just to keep her light shining on you. You stop sharing your opinion when it conflicts. You laugh when you don't find it funny. You offer more than you have because you're afraid that one moment of resistance might cost you her presence. And you think this is love, but it's not. It's abandonment of self. You start orbiting around her like she's the sun and you're just hoping to stay warm. But here's the paradox. The more you chase her to fill your emptiness, the more empty you become. Because every time you silence yourself, you lose a piece of your center. Every time you trade authenticity for closeness, you create distance within. And here's what you don't realize. She can feel it. Women are intuitive. They can sense when a man is no longer rooted in himself. When he's performing, pleasing, posturing. At first, she might enjoy the power, but eventually it turns to pressure. And pressure, unspoken and unchosen, becomes repulsion. She wasn't looking for a man who needed saving. She was looking for a man who had already saved himself. A man with direction, conviction, stillness. Because presence is not just being there. Presence is being anchored, being whole, being able to stand in your own truth, even if she walks away from it. But when you make her your identity, you put the weight of your soul in her hands, and no one, no matter how beautiful, kind, or loving, can carry that for long. Eventually, she starts to retreat, and you panic. You try harder, you give more, you become less. And when she finally walks away, you tell yourself she was ungrateful, too complicated, impossible to please. But the truth? You gave away your power the moment you made her your source of meaning. This isn't about blaming her, it's about owning yourself. Because no one stole your strength. You surrendered it piece by piece every time you thought proximity to her was worth the price of your integrity. And now it's time to take it back. Not with bitterness, not with bravado, but with quiet clarity. She was never the ground you were meant to stand on. You were always meant to stand alone, first. So when love comes, you're not falling into it to be saved. You're walking into it with your feet firmly planted, not as a beggar, but as a man. Let's talk about pain. Not the kind you post about, not the kind your friends know. I'm talking about the pain you carry in silence, the ache that wakes you at 3 a.m., the one that doesn't scream. It whispers, "You are unlovable. You'll always be alone. You weren't enough." That voice didn't come out of nowhere. It's been building from every time you gave your heart and it was met with indifference, from every look she gave someone else, from every goodbye you never saw coming. And now, here you are. Not just broken, but questioning if you were ever whole to begin with. But listen closely. That darkness you feel, it's not a prison. It's a doorway. Kierkegaard called despair the sickness unto death, but also the birthplace of true selfhood. Because when everything falls apart, when the illusions crumble, when the mask no longer fits, what's left? Just you. No performance, no chase. Just the raw, unfiltered, aching truth of your existence. And in that, there's something sacred. Because pain is not the enemy. It's the teacher, the sculptor, the fire that burns away everything you are not, so that you might finally see who you are. You see, when she left, she didn't just walk away from you. She took the fantasy, the future you imagined, the safety of believing someone else could complete you. And what remained wasn't just loneliness. It was you without the crutch, you unmedicated by illusion, you standing naked in your own soul. It's terrifying, but it's also pure. Because now, you don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to chase to feel worthy. You don't have to perform to feel loved. This is your initiation into manhood, into selfhood, into the quiet power of standing alone. Think about it. Every great man, every philosopher, every prophet, they all walked through the fire. They faced solitude, despair, the abyss. And they came out not weaker, but wiser. Nietzsche lost his mind in pursuit of truth. Bonhoeffer was executed for standing in his. Even Christ in the garden wept alone. So why do you think your journey should be painless? There's a purpose in this darkness, not to destroy you, but to strip you of illusion, of dependence, of the lie that you must be chosen to be valuable, because when you finally stop running from the pain, you start listening to it, and it will show you the parts of you that were never truly yours, the masks, the performances, the borrowed worth. Let it hurt. Let it hollow you out. And then let it fill you with something real, not her, not the fantasy, but you. Unapologetically, unbreakably, you. So what now? Do you swear off love? Do you armor up, grow cold, make vows you know you'll break? Do you become a ghost in your own life? Wandering, distracted, always fine, but never really here? No. You do something far more difficult. You come home to yourself. You stop outsourcing your worth. You stop asking others to tell you who you are. You begin the slow, painful, sacred work of becoming the man you were pretending to be. It starts quietly. You stand up straighter. You breathe deeper. You say no more often, not out of spite, but out of clarity. You stop chasing validation like a starving dog. Because deep down, you know, you were never meant to be desperate. You were meant to radiate, not to orbit around her approval, but to anchor into your own presence. To move through the world not as someone seeking a role to play, but as someone who knows he belongs here. You begin to separate longing from love, need from connection, attraction from destiny. You stop confusing the chemical rush of desire for the sacred calm of true partnership. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy, drama for depth, attachment for meaning. And perhaps, for the first time, you look in the mirror, not to critique, not to impress, but to meet yourself. You notice the boy still in your eyes, the man waiting behind him, the strength beneath the scars, the softness that didn't die, just got buried. And when you meet someone new, because you will, you won't hand them your soul and ask them to keep it safe. You'll hold your own soul with both hands. And if they want to walk beside you, good. But if they don't, you keep walking, because you're no longer begging to be chosen. You are choosing from fullness, not hunger. You begin to love like a grown man, not the kind of love that clings or performs, but the kind that gives, rooted, whole, calm. A love that doesn't rush to prove, but remains to understand. You'll feel the pull to relapse, to become the version of you she liked, to text her, to explain, to chase the echo. Don't. That was a boy's game. And you're not playing anymore. You're not seeking escape. You're seeking alignment with your purpose, with your presence, with your truth. And when you do, when you finally reclaim your center, something strange happens. You become attractive again, not in the flashy performative way, but in a way that magnetizes, because grounded men are rare and sacred men are unforgettable. She will notice. They all will. But more importantly, you will. You will feel yourself finally arriving. And that feeling, it's better than love because it's not given, it's owned. This is the beginning of your sovereignty. Welcome back. Hoy ChatGPT, there's something I need to say, and it might hurt a little, because even after everything, even after the realizations, the breakthroughs, the nights you've cried yourself clean, there will still be a voice in you, a soft, aching whisper that says, maybe she was the one? Maybe I should have done more. Maybe, just maybe, it could still work. That voice isn't evil. It's familiar. It's the echo of a chapter you didn't want to close. But here's the warning. Don't answer it. Not out of pride, not out of bitterness, but out of love for who you're becoming. Because the truth is, you weren't in love with her. You were in love with the version of you she allowed you to be. And chasing that again, trying to rewrite the story to make it end differently, is like walking back into a house you've already outgrown. The walls will feel smaller, the silence will feel heavier, and no matter how you rearrange the furniture, you'll still feel trapped. It's not that she's wrong for you, or that you were wrong for her. It's that the relationship was the lesson, not the destination. It was the teacher, not the temple. And now you are being called into a new life. Not a prettier one, not a louder, flashier one, but a truer one, where your value isn't determined by someone else's gaze, where your joy isn't borrowed from another's presence, where you don't shrink yourself to be chosen, but expand yourself to be whole. Yes, you will be tempted to send the text, to scroll the memories, to reach for her in your loneliest hours. But ask yourself, what are you really reaching for? It's not her. It's the feeling. It's the safety. It's the validation. But that must come from within now. That's the path, the narrow, honest, sacred path, the one few men walk. Because it requires you to stand alone, at least for a while. But it's in that solitude that you'll meet the man you were always meant to become, not just healed, but transformed. And here's the hope. This isn't the end of love. This is the rebirth of it. The next time you love, it won't be from fear. It won't be from lack. It will be from abundance, from clarity, from grounded strength. You'll no longer seek a woman to complete you. You'll seek one to walk beside you, not behind, not in front, but with you, because now you don't need saving. You need truth. And the truth is, you were never broken. You were just buried beneath a story. And now you're rewriting it. Word by word, step by step, not with her, not against her, but for you. This is not about forgetting her. It's about remembering yourself and never abandoning him again. So here we are, not at the end of her story, but at the beginning of yours. Because maybe for the first time, you're starting to understand. She was never your destiny. She was your mirror, a reflection of your hunger, your hope, your hidden wounds. She walked into your life, not to complete it, but to crack it open. And from those cracks, the light began to pour in. You thought love was supposed to feel safe, but the truth? Real love, the kind that teaches, that stretches, that transforms, it rarely feels safe at first. It feels raw, uncomfortable, unsettling, because it asks you to see yourself without the mask. And that takes courage. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, "It is not the love that sustains the relationship, but the way of living together that sustains the love. And the most important relationship is the one you build with yourself. So stop waiting for her to validate you. Stop needing her to see you before you learn to look inward. She was never your beginning. She is not your end. You were always the story you just forgot. Now you remember the boy who wanted to be chosen, the man who learned to choose himself. The soul who finally stopped chasing reflections and started building his own light. So breathe, not because it's over, but because you've begun. This is your becoming, not polished, not perfect, but honest. And that is enough. Welcome back to yourself. Welcome to know thyself.